I was lucky enough to get a Yuka Mini to test before it was released. It's a cute little robot designed for smaller lawns, but I wanted to give it a more robust test to see if it could survive the worst we could throw at it. So I loaned it to my sister, a technophobe with a project property.
Hello, I'm Leanna. I'm Lachlan's sister, and I'm also a mum and a speech language therapist and a photographer. Lockie mentioned he has a new robot to test, and I thought, awesome, I've got the perfect property that can really give this a great torture test. So besides having way too many hats, I also really hate learning new technology. I love it when it works, I hate learning it. So I thought, how about we see how easy this thing is for someone like me, way too busy, hates technology, to set up.
So, my first challenge was to set it up by myself. I unpacked the beautifully packaged mower, found the instructions, which come both in a huge graphic instruction sheet and in a smaller booklet, and then all the bits. I found the charging station with its shiny little camera detector thing and started there. I made it click and secured it using the handy little included tool. Next job was to screw the base to a clear patch of ground, although we did shift this later to get a better clear sky location for the RTK. Hot tip! Keep a close eye on those grey screws which camouflage in the grass. Nice and subtle once it's actually set up, not so handy if you drop them in the grass before assembly. Ta-da! This new model includes the bracket to screw the RTK to the side of a building for awesome suburban reception. You don't need to buy it separately like previous models. It's also got a flexible stem, which means you can have it at a right angle if you need to attach it to the wall. Then I plugged the RTK into the charging station and it was time for some power. So far so good. Apart from the momentary lost bit, this install process was super easy. Next job, get this thing mowing. I downloaded the app No Worries and connected with our mower. Then we could send it to charge, and once it was charged, we were ready to map an area for mowing. If you've ever been a gamer, you'll love this bit. I've hardly done any gaming, so my lines were a bit wonky to start with, but it was pretty easy to get the hang of. This property is pretty rough, so my little wobbles didn't matter much. If you're mapping a lawn that needs really precise edges, you'll probably want to do a little bit of practice before you start recording the mow. Once you get right back where you start, the finish button turns green and you're good to go. Now for the moment of truth. Can the little mower handle this wilderness? So, we're ready to mow. We've got our area mapped. And because it's pretty much a paddock, we're going to start on the highest setting so it cuts the grass at the highest possible length so that we can bring it down slowly. So it says push here, so I'm going to push. Pull it right around. We're ready to go. I'm going to press start. Next. Oh, here it goes. This property is in the middle of a super growing district and has been neglected for ages. What was a tidy lawn is now pretty much a paddock. A warm, wet start to summer has been epic growing weather, so the whole place is a tangle of thick grass and weeds. As you can see, the Yuka Mini got off to a great start, ploughing bravely through. We've had a tiny Ambrosio residential mower for some time, but it needed to be manually recharged and put out, and it's also a random mower. So it sort of got there by bouncing around the little lawn we had. And it showed us the magic that happens when a lawn is mowed several times a week. But this Yuka Mini is next level. For one thing, it's not much bigger than our other one, but it's way more powerful and customizable. The precision, the lines, and also being able to set and forget it, well, almost, make it a game changer. Up until now, all of the automatic mowers like this have been for huge sections with price tags to match. This Yuka Mini is going to bring this technology in reach of way more people. For example, busy mums and dads who want to create a perfect bee-free lawn for little bare feet. So, how's it going on its torture test?
So we said this was going to be a torture test, and sure enough, the mower did an awesome job of the first part of the mow. Must have been a little bit shorter there. This grass here, it is confusing for an obstacle. It's really thick, really lush, really long. So it's going around, you can see that it's left a little patch here and it's going around in all sorts of circles and taking ages. Usually on one of these mowers you would be able to adjust the sensitivity on the camera. In an ideal lawn, if your kids left a toy out in the grass, then you'd want it to go around, and that's great. However, we would prefer that it went straight through this stuff. Given that this mower that we're testing is pre-launch, so it's still in development, they're still constantly releasing new features Ideally, we would be able to adjust the sensitivity so it would just keep on working through something like this. So as it happens, we have the big brother of our special little mower here available. And so we're going to call that one in. We're going to mow down these extra long bits, then hopefully that will allow the small one to carry on and do its nice immaculate job.
Enter Yuka Big Brother, the original Yuka for large properties. He did an epic job clearing the way for our little Yuka to come in and finish the job. Does this mean the little Yuka failed the torture test and can't cope with being let loose in a paddock? Well, first of all, it doesn't matter if it did, because this was absolutely not what it was designed for. This little mate was designed for flat lawns for busy people who want to have the perfect lawn to look at and play on. It was not intended for paddocks. But I also strongly suspect that if we could have changed the sensitivity and instructed it to give things the touch test, it would have got there even with this. There were sections of grass that were twice as high as it that it got stuck in when the grass wound completely round its wheels while we were manually testing it through grass, so it definitely has some limits. But I think it could have done a whole lot more than it did. We might have to report back after release date when the software is no longer in beta. We have more long grass areas here yet that we can test it on.
So here we are, back to see how it's gone after 2 mows. It's looking pretty good. A little bit yellow, as you'd expect after hacking down such long grass, but it's starting to look more like a lawn and less like a paddock. Up until now we've been sort of getting things in place, but from now on it's about polishing, and that is where robot magic really starts to shine.
And now, come with me. Let's pop next door to the idyllic kind of lawn that this mower was designed for, and I'll show you some of the geek deets and specs. These Yuka Mini mowers are smaller versions of the bigger white Yuka. There are 4 sizes of these minis. We have the biggest one, the Yuka Mini 800, which mows 800 square metres of lawn. The 3 other models in lawn sizes are 700, 600 and 500. Our Yuka Mini 800 can set 10 custom zones. The littlest 500 one allows for setting 3. Ours has a bigger 6.1 amp hour battery, which means it can mow for longer before needing a charge, officially 150 minutes, less for the jungle we were testing it on. The little ones have smaller batteries, which means less mowing time, but also less charging time, so maybe the total mowing time is less different than it seems. The battery is also externally accessible, which is a nice change for ease of maintenance. We didn't get the chance to test this, but this mower has been announced with auto mapping, which should mean that it'll drive itself around each zone to map itself. It apparently uses AI cameras to tell what is lawn and what is flower bed, and reportedly takes 10 minutes. We did test out the object avoidance, and this time it did miss the lemon. It also mows in GPS blind spots by relying on the same dual cameras. As you saw, you have to adjust the grass height manually, which means you can't remotely change it mid-mow. Height options are between 20 and 60 millimeters. Let's check out the undercarriage. This little Yuka has 4 wheels, unlike its 3-wheeled big brother, and note how smoothly it mowed right through this rut left by a stuck car a few years ago. The floating deck is one of the features that gives it such a velvety, smooth mow. There are 5 cutting blades, and it's amazing that such tiny little razors have so much power. Check out what it looked like after ploughing through some seriously long grass. A fair bit caught in there, but it didn't seem to affect performance. It's 10 kgs, the same as a sack of spuds, but way easier to carry and less than half the weight of its big brother Luba. Okay, enough technical stuff. Let's go back to see how it's getting on.
Here we are, 5 days after the first mow. How's it looking? We've just paused the mower partway through its 5th pass. Looks pretty awesome. The paddock we started with is transformed into a lawn. The grass is now measuring 3 centimetres. Definitely not a paddock anymore. So here we can see the remnants of the paddock. When you cut this type of grass from long to short like we have, it will go brown and take a couple of weeks to fully recover and look green and immaculate.
We'll see if we can report back to you in a few weeks to show you how it looks with a bit more time, mows and rain.
Can you hear that lawnmower in the background? It reminds me of another awesome benefit of robot mowers. They are so quiet. So needless to say, I'm absolutely stoked with the results so far, and I can't wait to see what it does from here. I definitely need one of these in my life from now on.
But now we have a whole other section of paddock to start converting.
This was Leanna's first ever long form video, and I gave her no help at all as I was lazing on a beach in Bali. I think she did pretty well. I'll still make an in-depth expert perspective review, so make sure to subscribe.